Hey friends, it's KT, and this is the Adventure Force Deuce Pro. I have a lot of maybe out-of-the-box thoughts on this thing, and I want to share those with you, partly as a hobbyist myself and someone who wants to play with this blaster, but also as a parent who's always looking for stuff, especially for my soon-to-be 11-year-old who frequently plays at 200 FPS games with me and other adults. Be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and check me out on other social media. I am at Family Foam Sport pretty much everywhere. Some of these thoughts may surprise you, so I encourage you to stick around for the whole video and see where we go with this. Now, the Deuce Pro sort of has just appeared on Walmart shelves recently. Let's go stem to stern on it first. You got a nice comfortable grip. It's very comparable to the grip on the Aeon Pro. You have this sort of funny safety system where instead of having a locking safety as most of the other Pro Blasters do, there's simply a second trigger down here. It's a little rattly and noisy, which I don't like, but the idea is that you just hold it down first and that allows your trigger to move. You've got a priming slide on the back that's very similar to the one on the Mark II. It gives nice purchase with either an overhand or cross grip, and it's got this cool loop on the back, which I'm going to talk about more later. Now, the Deuce loads with these pop-out cylinders that hold 6 rounds. You can pull the cylinders out and preload them, or you can insert rounds one at a time through this single slot on the front of the blaster. Now, the blaster comes with 3 of these cylinders and enough darts to fill all 3 of them. The extras fit in this holster that comes for them as well, and the nice thing about this is the ultimate short dart top-off blaster, because you can insert individual darts in the cylinder as you fire, but also you can just, this sits on your belt like this, and you can just slot darts in as you're running around, which I think is a rad feature. I'm always looking for stuff like that in my mag-fed blasters, and so to have a sidearm that can do that is a very cool idea. Now, this is a full-on sealed pusher breech system, so when I push this forward, you can watch the pusher seal all the way into the breech up here. It actually goes through the cylinder and locks the cylinder in place. So once you got that going, you can't rotate the cylinder again. Now, it also does cylinder rotation in a funny way. When you pull back on the priming bar a little bit past the prime point, it'll rotate the cylinder one time each time. This is something we're going to come back to. It's a huge gripe of mine with this blaster, and I know I'm not the only one. Now, moving forward, we get to this Picatinny style rail along the top. It comes with this little removable iron sight, but probably one of the most interesting parts of this blaster is the added barrel attachment. Now, in most blasters like this, when you twist on a barrel, like an N-Strike barrel, it actually decreases the performance of your blaster because it's not a sealed barrel. It's just a tube that is larger than the dart, and so the dart can kind of skip off the sides or just have air resistance problems from the limited movement space. But this actually has a sealed metal barrel and a gasket, and increases the performance of the blaster by about 30 feet per second. So without this on, I was getting around 120 FPS. With this on, I'm getting about 150. So it goes from being safe for most HVZ events to good for, great, honestly, as a competitive sidearm. It's worth pointing out that this, with the barrel attached, is about as powerful as this. Now, the Nexus Pro is now on clearance, being closed out, but we're going to continue to see other blasters coming out of the Adventure Force Pro line, I'm sure, that shoot in the same 150 FPS numbers. So this doing it at a cheaper price in a smaller package is pretty cool. So that's an overview of the blaster at large. One of the things that's really great about this is all the inclusions that it comes with, and it comes with a lot. First, we have this drop leg holster. The blaster fits very cleanly into it. Even with the iron sight attached, there's a slot for the iron sight on the holster, so it won't get moved when it goes in. It always fits in there perfectly. Now, something I've chosen not to use is the holster comes with an additional holster just for the barrel. So you can attach this here by simply press fitting it on, and you can remove it by unscrewing these screws, but I just kind of don't want to go through that. In my opinion, you're either using the blaster in a game where 150 feet per second is appropriate, or you're using it in a game where 120 to 130 feet per second is appropriate. I don't see a reason to carry this in a separate holster that you would want to then swap to. Now, as I've discussed, the blaster gets 120 to 130 FPS without the barrel, around 150 with, and I also found that my ability to hit a target at a pretty decent distance was solid. So let me take you to some firing footage that I took outside on my improvised range. All right, so I am out here with the Deuce Pro with the extended barrel on. I'm at about 50 feet from those barriers back there. We're gonna see if we can hit it, and then with each cylinder, I will move back 10 feet and see how it does. Okay. 50 feet is easy. We're gonna move back right now. I also want to mention, this thing is loud. I hear it echoing off of the hills around here, so I feel a little awkward shooting this thing outside, but this is what it is. All right, so it did that thing where I must have accidentally double pulled and then advanced and skipped a shot. Okay. I haven't practiced with this, but it's working great. Accuracy is quite high. We're gonna go ahead and pop this cylinder out, put in another one off of our belt, and move back 10 more feet. All right, we're at 70 feet now. All right, that actually didn't reach, but it might have been a bad dart. I'm overshooting. Yeah, I did it again. Yeah, so I'm not above saying that that might be a skill issue where I just need to practice and not pull too hard on the thing when I'm priming it, but kind of a bummer to not be able to just like really rack it and just kind of go for it without fear of double priming the blaster. We're gonna move back forward to 50 feet and we're gonna take the barrel off and we're gonna see how that feels. All right, we're back here at 50 feet. I don't want to do this outside too long because even though it's bright orange, it looks a little bit more like a firearm for my tastes for playing in my front yard. But we're going to get a few shots off of this, see how it does at 50 feet at around 120 feet per second. That was a whirlybird. Okay, it's doing fine. Let me take you now to the two major issues I have with this blaster. One is the ease of over-rotating the cylinder. When you prime the blaster, as I mentioned, it rotates the cylinder one time. Now, if I pull back again, it'll rotate again. This movement is very light. There's a little click as it goes over a little bitty bump. Now, Silly Butts and others have shown that you can make it harder to do this pull by replacing a spring inside with a slightly stronger spring. But a concept that I'm talking about more and more in these videos is the first 10 minutes that you spend with a blaster. And in my first 10 minutes with this blaster, I did this quite a few times where I over-rotated the cylinder and dry fired while I was trying to chrono the blaster. So I think that's a real bummer. I definitely suggest doing that mod to yours if you're comfortable doing that. It is something you can certainly practice your way out of to avoid having that problem going forward. I've had it happen to me less and less as I've played with the blaster more, but it's a significant problem. It's a design problem for sure, and something that I'd love to see avoided in the future. The other major issue I have with this blaster is volume. Firing this thing is so loud. Now, I'm a musician and I own a decibel meter because I'm that kind of nerd. Unfortunately, I can't find it right now. I really wanted to show you how much louder it is than other blasters. But it's something that you really notice when you are trying to look down the sights and you have it right next to your ear. This is where the sound comes from. I don't know what it is about the mechanism in this that makes it so much louder than other Adventure Force Pro blasters, but it's something to consider. It can make it harder for you to hear other things that are going on in your game, and it's just bad for your ears. If I was going to be using this in a situation where I'm actually trying to look down the sights, I'm going to wear an earplug in this ear because it's just a little too much. Now, the good news is those are really the only two major problems that I have with this blaster. Everything else about it has been really great. I could see myself running the Deuce in games. I don't know if I would pick it as a competitive blaster because magazines are just more reliable than cylinders in a lot of ways. But it's a cool design and it's quirky and it does what it says. Now, you're all probably still wondering what is going on with this string that I have tied to the back. And this is a very rough test I had of an idea in regards to this being a blaster that my kids, especially older sort of middle kids, tweens, could use as a sidearm in higher FPS games. One of the things that's cool and unique about Nerf is the danger of real injury is so much lower in this sport than in airsoft or paintball, and so I love having my kids get involved in it. But coming up with blasters that they can shoot competitively in like a 150, 200 or higher game is challenging. And I'm not excited to give them flywheelers with lipos in them necessarily. My kid knows what to do if a lipo catches on fire, but not every kid does. My 11-year-old built a skewer. Now the skewer is a direct prime blaster, and there's this cool thing that happens when you have the prime bar directly in line with the spring. It becomes a much more efficient pull. When you use a pump priming blaster, you're indirectly applying the force to the spring, and there's lateral forces and there's friction. This decreases all of those extra forces, and more of your energy goes into priming the spring. This blaster gets 150 feet per second, and both of my kids can operate it really, really easily. Because of the ring on this, it's very close to a direct prime. When I put this in my 11-year-old's hands, he is able to prime it like this, but it's very challenging. With this, it's just sort of a hard tug and you're there. The fact that they put this ring on the end of this is very interesting, and I wonder if they had that in mind. Not necessarily specifically for kids to be using it, but just to make it more accessible, because this isn't just about kids, it's about anybody that has less arm strength, whether it's due to a disability or just being tired late in a game. This makes the blaster more accessible, and I'm sure you could come up with a better option than 4 loops of string on here, but there are definitely things you could make to attach to this to take advantage of this ring and get more of a direct prime experience and just make it an easier blaster to use. The other thing I want to mention about this blaster, these cylinders perfectly take 50 cal foam balls. So these are not hyper rounds, these are 50 caliber foam balls designed to sort of stand in for paintball, and you can shove 2 or 3 in each cylinder. And when you do that and fire it, you get a shotgun effect. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I hate shooting these things because they get everywhere. Oh my God. Here's another one. Well, there was the overprime that I talked about. I'm never finding those again. If you play in a place where that's appropriate, that's a really cool feature to have a sidearm shotgun that you can just pull out and fire a bunch of little tiny rounds very quickly. They have a pretty good spread, and you know, it's really fun. The problem is, I don't really recommend 50 cal foam balls or hyper for pretty much anywhere. If you have an indoor arena where you know you're not going to have animals eating them or having them get lost really easily, sure, but that's pretty much it. Definitely don't recommend them for outside play, and they all shoot too hard for playing inside your house. So that's it on the Deuce Pro. It comes with a lot for $40. If you look at this and you go, I know exactly how I would use that, it's well built, and I definitely recommend it. I think that there's a lot of cool options, like I said, for accessibility, for a variety of ways to play with it. But also, it's kind of a niche product. A 6-round revolver is not the most universal style of blaster at this sort of hobby grade of blaster the way it is as a toy. The fact that you can only fill 1 dart in the cylinder at a time and that it's not like the next round to go into the chamber is a little bit annoying, but it's certainly a thing that you can practice, get used to, and utilize. So my overall opinion on this is kind of middling. The loud noise that it makes is a really big turnoff to me in particular as a musician. The fact that you can direct prime it this way and attach them to this loop is a big plus, and when I'm thinking about accessibility. The auto rotation problem that it seems to have is a big minus for me, especially when I'm concerned about the first 10 minutes of play. But the overall build quality and the amount of performance you get out of it for $40 and all the accessories that it comes with, that's a really great deal. So ultimately, I don't think I can give you a solid yes or no on this one. By now, with all the things I've said, you've probably already decided whether or not this blaster is for you, and I think that's kind of where you got to go with it. So thanks so much for watching. I'm KT, this is Family Foam Sport. I would appreciate a like on this video and a subscription to the channel, and like I said, be sure to check me out on other social media because I'm doing first reactions on TikTok generally, and then following those up with 1-minute reviews and full-length reviews that you can see here on YouTube. So until next time, I'll see you on the field.
Ooh.